Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We wanted to share this interview with Philip and wanted to chat with him a little bit and give him an opportunity to share what Foster the Bay has been doing and just kind of give you an update. We partner with them throughout the year, but we wanted to give a quick update from Philip and let him share with you. So Philip, if you don't know, is the executive director and founder of Foster the Bay. That is a coalition of churches trying to really committed to providing a home, a loving home for every foster child in the Bay Area. And their vision is really to help create a longer list of homes that are ready and willing to accept foster kids than there are the list of foster kids. And so Philip is a pastor and a friend, and he's one of the people that when I leave a conversation or an experience with him, I leave really encouraged about the future. And I hope that that'll be the case for us today and for you as well. So Philip, thanks for joining us. I wanted to share, just so give you an opportunity to share first off, how are you and your family doing through this crisis, your volunteers, your staff? How's life for you?
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. We're doing really well. I've got four kiddos at home, so between the ages of 3 and 12. And so it's busy and it's loud and it's chaotic. And three of them are in school still, so we've been doing the remote learning thing, and that which provides its own challenges. But we've managed, and honestly, there's been a lot of some like unexpected blessings in the season of being able to spend a little bit of extra time together. And I think in times of challenge, if you're willing to go to battle together, it can actually kind of bond you a little bit more. So there's been some really neat bonding in our family. Same thing with our team, actually, with Foster the Bay. Most of our team is made up of parents. Most of us have kiddos in the home, and for many of us, actually, we're also foster parents. We have kids in the home as well that maybe have come from some harder places, and just in general, that means there's some challenges. And so, for many of these kids in foster care, they have therapists, teachers, CASA advocates, mentors, psychologists, all these people that are all these people that are speaking into their life. Well, during the last 3 months, virtually all of that is gone. And so now that all falls on the parent. So not only you're a foster parent, but you're also a teacher and a therapist and all the rest, a counselor and a mentor and all the rest of it. And so there have definitely been some challenges for our team and for just the overall Foster the Bay community. But it's been really fun to see the way that the Bay Area really has actually stepped up to actually support foster families and others that are kind of knee deep in this work. So anyway, it's been challenging and fun, all the above.
Well, you've sort of already touched on this, but just because COVID-19 happened, that doesn't mean that there's still not a need for people to care for foster kids. There's still foster kids that need homes, and I've shared with our church that one of the first few days of this shelter-in-place order, we received a call asking for us to help with a foster child that we were just heartbroken that we couldn't help. We just didn't feel like we could at that time. But could you share a little bit about how COVID-19 is specifically impacting a little bit more? Share a little bit more about how COVID-19 has been impacting your work.
Yeah. So on one hand, kids entering into foster care has actually decreased over the last several months, and that was kind of to be expected, because kids oftentimes will enter into foster care because somebody from the outside has noticed something that was happening. It could have been neglect for the child or abuse. So it could have been a school teacher or a coach or something. Well, those relationships for the time being are temporarily kind of severed. And so a lot of the things that kids are walking through are not being noticed. And so they can't be reported, and so kids aren't being entered into foster care as much. However, across the board, across the country, experts are saying, as shelter in place is beginning to lift, expect an extreme surplus of kids entering into foster care, and big influx of kids, because as kids start coming out, they're going to start. The stories are going to come out. People are going to start noticing things, and there's going to be so we are bracing ourselves for a tremendous influx, and actually we need to prepare. And so we've been in regular contact with you and the other pastor on the Bay Area to say, hey, we've got to be ready, because everything is pointing to this reality that there's going to be a lot of kids coming in that have gone through some really difficult things. Over these 3 months where we've been in shelter in place, there are many kids in the Bay Area who are like living in already pretty stressful environments. And again, it could be related to drugs or abuse or just simply neglect. And oftentimes their school was an opportunity for them to kind of escape for a little bit, or their sports teams. Well, they've been in it for 3 months. They've been stuck there. And in some cases, the added stress, whether it's economically, people losing their jobs, there's been a tremendous amount of stories coming out about the like increasing relapse rates, because many of like the rehabs and other things are closing down, and these support groups are closing down. So many people are relapsing back into drugs and substances. So many of these kids have been living in probably what feels like hell to so many of them. And so we're going to see an influx. And so right now calls have dipped, but we're expecting it to spike. That being said, we have had families that have been taking in kids. We actually had a call recently from, earlier on in the kind of the COVID season, from San Francisco. Actually, they had 4 kids who had tested positive for coronavirus that were in need of placement, and they called us and said, "Hey, we are in desperate need for families that would open up their home to these kids." And we did have families that raised their hand and said, "We'll do it. We'll volunteer to take in these kids." And it's what's so beautiful about that to me is like these are families who were voluntarily exposing themselves to the very thing that the whole rest of the world is hiding from, right? They said, "We'll take in these kids." So it's super fun to see families being willing to do that.
And what a great sort of flashback to the early church, walking into cities where the plague was taken over, and wow, that's when everybody else is walking out. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So when I originally started talking to Philip about doing this interview, I think, at least in my mind, Philip, I was really only thinking about the crisis of COVID-19, but now we've had this kind of new momentum around racial justice and reconciliation, and just sort of it's been brought to the forefront, especially for people like you and me who are white and probably don't deal with it very often. So I guess I'd love for you to speak a little bit to how your work in Foster the Bay really sort of addresses this, and what ways that we could sort of partner with you in that as well.
Yeah. Well, so our vision, if you look on our website, fosterbay.org, you'll see on our website, it says like our vision. It's a very short statement. It says we're a church for every child. And so it's not a church for white kids. It's not a church for brown kids. It's not a church for black kids. It's a church for every child. So something we've talked with the families that are stepping forward to open up their homes is challenging them to say, "Hey, you're not just being called to love and to care for kids that look like you or that come from similar backgrounds as you. Every single child matters to God. They are valuable to God." And so, and the reality is we live in a very diverse area in the Bay Area. And so the kids that you're going to see in foster care are diverse, and they come from all colors and backgrounds. And in fact, there's a high amount of the kids that enter into foster care won't look like you, and so or don't look like you and me, Chris. And so, in fact, in San Francisco, for example, 54% of the kids in foster care are Black. They come from the Black community, and so we have challenged families. One of the best ways that you can engage and to be able to remind and actively like put feet behind your belief that these kids matter is by, in the most difficult season of their life, welcoming them into your home and pouring your life into them, and actually feeding them and clothing them and tucking them in at night, and like providing for these things for them. So across the Bay Area, like I said, there's people from all shapes and sizes and colors and communities. And so we think it's a phenomenal way. It's one thing to make a donation, which is great. It's one thing to give, some, whatever. It's another to actually say, I'm not just going to give something to you. I'm going to actually open my home and my life to you. And so my wife and I are foster parents. And so we have fostered Black kids, brown kids, white kids, and all the above. So it's been fun to be able to actually have our communities come and mingle together, and again, be able to actually put feet and hands behind what we believe is true.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Philip. Just kind of wrapping up here, what have been sort of the biggest challenges for you and your team? I mean, you sort of expressed some of them already, but any big challenges that also we could maybe address specifically as a church? And if someone's interested in helping, what can they do to get involved?
Yeah. I think a couple of things come to mind. We talk about racial equity and racial justice and reconciliation. I think one way, and I'm going to be totally honest with your congregation today. Okay. So I'm just going to be really frank with you all.
Perfect.
We really believe that God has called us for every child to be cared for. And yet we need to inform the actions of Foster the Bay and the communities of Foster the Bay with a heart for a continuing growing heart for racial reconciliation and a racial justice. And so as a white male leader, this is my heart, but I have a lot to learn, and I have a lot to grow in being able to inform the actions and the ministry of Foster the Bay with a heart for racial equity and inclusion and diversity. And so I would love your prayer as we try to grow and get better at this, and as we honor every community and every person that lives in the Bay Area. If I'm just being 100% honest with you, I need to grow. I need to get better. And so I would cover your prayers in that. If you're interested in actually being a part of what we're doing with Foster the Bay, and you want to learn about actually opening your home, like Chris and I have, to kids in foster care, or if you want to support families like that, the best thing to do would be to join us at an interest meeting. These are informational meetings where we just kind of talk about what the needs are, some very practical ways that you can be involved as a foster family, as a support friend, as an advocate, as somebody who prays on a regular basis, whatever it might be. You just want to learn, come to these informational meetings. And they're all virtual right now, obviously, so you can join literally in your pajamas and just tune in right from your own home. We have them happening all the time, and so you can RSVP on our website. And again, it's just fosterthebay.org. We'd love to have you be a part of that. So I think probably those two things: prayer, and then join us at an interest meeting. That's a great first step.
Perfect. We'll put those on our website, and we'll put the information in the chat. Awesome. And everything. So, well, Philip, I really appreciate you sharing with us and taking some time out of your schedule. And we really enjoy, for us, I think it's a huge privilege for us to partner with you and doing the great work that you're doing, and getting to hear the stories, and maybe being a small little part of it is just really powerful. So thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Chris, yeah, thank you. And to all of you at New Life, we really are so thankful for your partnership. You guys have been so generous to us over the years. You've given financially, you've been generous that way. But then we've also seen families from New Life that have actually opened up their homes. And so like Chris, thank you so much for partnering with us in so many unique ways. I know that I've had a chance to speak at New Life before, and we've just really, really enjoyed our partnership. And so as you are investing in New Life, as you're giving in New Life, I do hope you know that when you give to New Life, that your giving actually directly is linked to the lives of vulnerable children in the Bay Area. And as you're involved there, you're part of something really special. So thank you so much for your partnership.
Thanks, Philip.